This is also new. Now that we have our style line, we are going to close here and open. For us to be able to open, we have to close one. Don't forget, that's the rule of that manipulation. You cannot close until you've opened a particular place. Now remember, we want to open here, but before that I'm going to have to cut out my surplice neck so you can see what this looks like. Like yeah. It's possible. Good. Now that is it. We now have our neckline already cut out what we don't need. The next thing I want to do now is to open the necessary places. Actually, not bother myself. I'm closing this. If you have a paper tape, you can, but I've chosen to use the water gum here. Then I've closed here. Automatically the dart has moved to the side. The next thing now is to close the shoulder dart and move it to the neckline so we can have the dart according to the sketch here. Now I'm going to open this again. Whenever you cut the bust point, not through it to the bust point, or else you are going to have a distorted pattern and that would not be nice. I'll add my gum here, then close it properly, folding out the necessary darts. As you can see, I've closed all the necessary darts. I've moved the shoulder dart to the neckline and I've moved the waist dart to the side. However, if you remember that this dart will remain as a dart that will be sewn, these two darts, but here what we have here is not a dart. It's going to be converting the dart into gathers. We can as well decide to leave this particular dart the way it is and just maintain this smaller size. But if you want your darts, if you want the fullness to be more than this, now this is what you are going to do so that you are able to slash the darts. Just one. Now I'm going to have to create another line for me to slash, but remember that if I leave this line here and I slash, I won't be able to open through. But there's something called a tangent line, or just you are going about the pattern line. So I'm going to cut from here now and divert the line to somewhere around the, it's not going to have any effect on the pattern. It's just for you to have a proper opening. Do you see that? Because I already diverted my cut around here, so that way I'm able to open properly. Then I'm going to have to tape it down. Now you see we have this opening, and now I've already slashed here and diverted a little bit of the fullness around here, so I'm able to open it. You can decide to use the same space that your dart opening gave you, or you want to do more, but I would have used the same measurement you have here to do this, so the diversion is not too much around here. So now you can see. Now the next thing I will do is to hold the paper gum. Remember I said you can use a paper tape, but I often prefer to work with this water gum because I think I've mastered it over time, and I like the fact that it always makes my work very, very neat. Now, so this is it. I gum that on the paper and also do the same thing on the other side of the paper, so they can all be held permanently on the new paper for sewing allowance to be added on the pattern. Okay, now that I've added gum to that, then make sure you do that gently and smoothly so you don't end up ruining your pattern piece. Now this is it. Do you see? Now the next thing I want to add is my sewing allowances. So because this is a small size pattern, it is not a full human body measurement. We call this half scale of the body. So I'm going to be using like 1 cm on the side seam, 1 cm on the side, 1 cm on the shoulder. The neckline, I'm going to have to use 0.5 cm, so the allowance there is not too bulky. And same thing around here, the other side 1 cm, the waistline 1 cm. So now let's go about adding the sewing allowance. 1 cm, and the last part of this would also, but before I had 1 cm here, you can see they are not on the same line, and that is because of the diversion I did here. But the next thing I want to do is to have a blend. blend from this first point to the last point, and that will look like this before adding my sewing allowance. Do you see that? Then I will now add my 1 cm sewing allowance. Don't worry about the curved line. As soon as you sew in your gathers, it's going to blend in on a straight line, and this automatically will move up. That will be explained in the sewing room. Do you see? Now I would have to cut this out so I can chew these darts for a proper seam movement. Okay, now you see, before I cut this area where the dart is, I would have to fold my dart, because if I cut it on a straight line, it means that by the time I want to sew this pattern, the fabric will not meet at the same point. See what I'm trying to explain? Can you see this? Now you cut that line on folding your pattern, your dart. That way you are going to avoid any. Do you see now? It means that by the time you sew your dart, the fabric is going to meet. Then we've done that. So this is the end of the draft. Remember I said something about the gather, so let me quickly just do a brief explanation on how you are going to work on that. So this is it now. This is the gathered region. By the time I pick this on the fabric and I decide to ruche this up, you see it automatically become a straight line around the waist. Do you see? So that is what it means when you gather the fabric, and it looks curved now. By the time you fold it up, it is gathered up. And don't forget, your labeling is very important in pattern drafting. This is the side front, this is the center front, this is the side front, and cut 2 pieces. You are giving whosoever is picking up this pattern the information they need on how to cut this pattern. Then you write a surplice neckline on it, surplice neckline. Or if you don't want to have a separate sketch, you can just sketch a little of this on your drag, but it's always advisable to have these separately. Thank you.